Welcome back, everybody. Like I said, we're doing a TA on a 3788 2+2. TAs are all pretty much going to be the same on different models, but I thought we'd go ahead and do a how to change a TA. So here we go. Let's dive into it. We got the TA transmission housing sitting on this stand, so we can fully rotate it completely over. As you see, we got the little crank here. We just spin this guy around and you can completely turn the transmission upside down. Not really I mean, you could do it on the floor if you were, feeling hefty enough. Because you gotta go in from both ends of the transmission, and it makes it a lot easier when you can completely rotate it upside down. Okay, so first thing we need to do is pull the clutch rod out so we can get the rest of the front of the housing out. So how do we pull the clutch rod? It's pretty simple. Just take a screwdriver. See this big clip right here? Just got to knock that big clip out. Now with the big clip out, most of the time you're going to have to remove that grease zerk as well. Very, very rarely have I seen grease zerk small enough it'll slide over, but some of them can. Okay, so now with the brake arm out of the way, we can get that chucked over. Now you can access these two bolts. You can remove these two bolts, and this whole big shaft will slide in and out. But keep in mind there's little half moon dowels in there that have to come out as you go through, because the dowels will not slide through the housing over here. So there's going to be three of them. There's one here, and one over here on this side, and this one will come out before we move it very far because it's right there on the bottom. That's what makes that arm work. Okay, now with the clutch arm out of the way, we're going to go ahead and buzz these out, which lets us access to the front of the PTO. These usually get replaced every time you do a clutch as well. This IPTO shaft and those two seals in there. When you have oil down in your clutch housing, that's where it comes from, as I was explaining, either this seal here or this seal here. We'll just pop that loose. And of course a big O-ring on the outside. Don't really see anything wrong with that one. Granted, this one's not very old. Shouldn't have been leaking. There's also one inside there. We got one there and one there. Which one was leaking, I don't know. Neither one should have been. Okay, I'm going to toss that aside. Now, we can't do anything else with this end until we get more done around here. We have to pull the MCV off, and we need to start pulling the gears out of the top shaft. So we need to pop this cover off here real quick so we can get to the shift forks. And then we'll pop the nuts, the bolts loose on the shaft itself right there, those 12 points, and we'll pull the whole shaft out in just a minute. Now with all the bolts loose, just find a good corner or something that we can just kind of pop up with a screwdriver, gently mind you, in case she's broke loose. You just need a couple hands to lift that big guy off of there. Okay. And now we have access to our shift forks, okay, and our rails. Now these two are effectively doing first, second, and third. And then on a 4-speed transmission, they'll be doing the fourth as well. Yep, wrong socket. Hold on. Switch sockets. Now some of the other transmissions, I don't know about all of them, but I know at least my tractors have the big Phillips screws underneath here instead of these hex head screws. I don't know why these are different, but maybe they're all that way. Now these need to be set over kind of in order, so I'm going to pull both of them out and set them right over there with the cover. Okay, with those 4 bolts out of the way, now we can go ahead and remove our top shaft. Just a little bit of wiggling and it will come right out. Maybe our pry bar would help. There we go. And I try to catch these gears as they come out. see on this 3-speed transmission, you have spacers in here, guys. You got a spacer and a shim washer. These need to be put back in order right the way they came out. There we go. Now there's one other shim washer in here, and it goes on the very back side. Be the first thing to go on the shaft when you reinstall it. Like that. Oh, and you gotta turn a little bit, little bugger. That shim washer is fighting me a little bit. It's gotta be in the groove. There we go. Now looks like this last one. Some of these gears are smooth on the inside, and the others have little notches for the splines on the shaft. Okay, now we're just going to set him on the floor. Nothing wrong with any of those gears. We did drop a bolt down in there, didn't we? Okay. Actually, I'll go ahead and put these back in. You can cut it there, Cameron. Before we could pull that shaft out, we have to take this bearing cup off. And it just buzzes out right there. You guys don't have an impact, you're going to want to get one. Makes life so much easier doing this crap. Okay, now that should pop right off, but yep, it did. There it is, and there's going to be some shims on here. Here's our shims. Make sure you don't lose those. And there's also a little square O-ring right there. Now we're ready to go ahead and start removing the bottom shaft, guys. And this one is left-handed thread, so turning it left hand would be tightening, right hand is loosening. I went ahead and pulled the big ring off. Now we're going to pull this nut off the back of this counter shaft, expose our ring, and then we need to turn this transmission upside down so we can pull the gears out through this bottom port. So let's go ahead and crank this thing over. Here, I'll get it. It's kind of heavy. Okay, now we're just working the shaft down through. Sometimes they can be pretty stiff to start, but once you get them started, they'll come right out. There it is. Now we got a couple shims come with us. That one should have been over there on the cup. And we got a nice little bearing race right here. Now usually this bearing right there will come out with it. This guy, it's just a little needle bearing that sits in the front half of that counter shaft. This one did not come out. It started to, but it didn't come all the way out. That's fine. Now we got to go back around the other side and get all those gears pulled out. Okay. And you can see the counter shaft gears and spacers. We will use the book for putting these back in, make sure we get them oriented the right direction. Sometimes you can tip this transmission kind of diagonally That way you can pull the gears out as the shaft's coming out, but where I had it vertical, the shaft wanted to just fall out, so we didn't catch them. The other two gears come out through the bottom. This is the driven gear off of the TA shaft. Okay. Now I'm going to take a minute and I'm going to get all these organized again and put back on the shaft. Okay, back with the transmission sitting proper. We've got to pull the MCV off now and reach in and pull those three tubes out that go into the TA. And then we'll come in here, we'll take these, knock these little tabs off of these retainers for these bolts. And then the TA shaft will be ready to yank out. And in doing that, we'll have to turn the transmission up this way one more time, and we'll get the cherry picker over here to lift the TA out. Okay. And there's the MCV off. 2+2s don't have a pump here, where the two-wheel drive tractors will have a pump stuck on the end of here. That's your steering pump. Okay, with this out of the way.
Now see that.
Now we got to pull these three tubes out right there. And it's easiest just to reach inside with a pair of pliers, wiggle them a little bit, and kind of pull out right through here. Just kind of grip them a little bit, wiggle and pull. There's that one. And just take a chisel or a good screwdriver. This one is metal shafted all the way through. And just bend those little tabs over so you can get onto them with your socket. Like that. I think these are the only ones taking this apart that I can't get the impact on. Now we need to rotate the transmission to pull the TA on out of the front. It comes out through the clutch housing. But before we do that, I want to get a bolt put inside one of these holes to keep this from coming off the backup. Oh, I got the boom up now, we're out of cable. Okay, we're just about clear, guys. Almost all the way out. Okay, we're clear. Now, there's not much I can do to look at this to say what's wrong with it. It's gonna have to go back to the dealer and they're gonna have to tear it apart and inspect it. So, that's what we gotta do. Pull this gasket down off here quick. It's actually a shim gasket, guys. Sometimes they need them and sometimes they don't. Alright, guys. That's going to be it for the how to remove a TA. Now, going back together, there is some shimming in there, as I was saying with that shim washer. You got to install the TA first and make sure you have enough end play on your TA shaft. And same thing with the counter shaft gear. You got to go back together in a certain order. Now, granted, being we're just taking this apart, we're not replacing bearings or any gears or spacers or anything. The counter shaft was set last time we put this in here. It was about 20 hours ago when we put the TA in, and we put that shim washer in then that was missing. So everything should be fine on the the main shaft and the counter shaft, but the TA will have to be shimmed as it goes back together. So we've got to wait for the new TA to get in, and we can kind of go from there. And I can put that video up too, as you guys benefit. So until then, guys, stay tuned. We've got some got a little bit of stuff to do around the house here, and pretty much just waiting. We need to be getting the combine out and getting it serviced up. Not anything majorly wrong with it, just needs serviced and gone through. Our corn is getting pretty close, so we should be in the field here pretty soon. Another, probably a couple weeks before we get combining. So stay tuned. Until then, thanks for watching. Catch you later.